Good evening. You're on the Nation at 5, and this evening, first up, we are going to get you information which the entire nation should know. This is a part of our country which for long has been under forced occupation by the Pakistanis, and especially with the Pakistani army. And we are getting you revolt, signs of major revolt coming in from Gilgit-Baltistan. And the first signs of revolt are against their own people being held as political prisoners. Let's go across to these visuals that are coming first here on CNN News 18. This is the real face of Pakistan. Hundreds of people, including women, children, braving the winters, the cold, taking to the streets, and for the last 3 days, they have been protesting in the Hunza Valley in Gilgit-Baltistan, demanding the release of 14 activists, 14 people who've been jailed for the last 7 to 8 years on trumped-up charges of rioting, murder, etc. Just arbitrary charges since 2011. One of them is also Baba Jan, a local leader who stood up for preserving the ecological heritage of Gilgit-Baltistan, who stood up and questioned the administration which wanted to just loot and plunder the people and also deny them what is theirs. All the accused have vehemently denied the charges. They've called this nothing but a political ploy to stifle those questioning the occupants, those questioning the Pakistani army. And these are the visuals coming in from the Hunza region in Gilgit-Baltistan. Captain Alok Bansal, director of the India Foundation, is joining us. We'll also have Amjad Ayub Mirza, Pojk, a political activist, also joining us from Glasgow at this point. But Captain Alok Bansal, these are visuals coming in from Gilgit-Baltistan, and these voices are only rising. Increasing number of protests and revolts against the Pakistani forced occupation, and they're also irate about the presence of PLA troops there in that region.
See, Hunza is an extremely important part of Gilgit-Baltistan, and for those who are unaware, it is the northernmost area. In fact, the territory of Hunza, Shaksgam Valley, was handed over to China by Pakistan in 1963. From that time onwards, the residents of Hunza have been protesting. There's another region that the people of Hunza are fairly well educated. In fact, Hunza's Human Development Index is higher than that of Pakistan. And people in Hunza are largely adherent of Smiley Shia sect. They are actually also perturbed with the growing radicalization that the Pakistani state is trying to inflict on this particular region. And the people have been protesting. Baba Jan is an extremely popular leader, not only in Hunza Valley, but also in rest of Gilgit-Baltistan. And he has been kept in jail since 2011. People have been protesting. The voices have been raised internationally. And I think the people are now fed up and they are trying to protest. Hunza, as you know, is extremely important part of Gilgit-Baltistan. Yes. And this is just a flicker because Baba Jan is extremely popular in rest of the areas of Gilgit-Baltistan. People all over Gilgit-Baltistan have been protesting against Pakistan's oppressive policies, denial of democratic rights, and Pakistan's attempt to change the demography of this strategic region.
Right.
And what we are seeing is now the beginning. And probably with the passage of time, you will see more and more protests being voiced in this particular.
Because sometime early September, there were calls for protests because the authorities just would not pay listen. In fact, sometime last year, Amjad Ayub Mirza is also with us. He was very ill, and the Pak authorities and the Pak military even refused to give him medical care and allow him some amount of time out so that he could get proper medical care. Now the people have come out and they're braving the cold, Amjad Ayub Mirza. Women, children, you know, along with the men folk are sitting through the day, late evening, and they're braving the cold because they are really upset with the Pakistani occupation and the military there.
Well, you see, Baba Jan and 12 of his other comrades are in prison since 2011. What happened was that there was floods, and the floods caused landslide, and there was an artificial lake called Atabad Jheel in the region of Atabad, which submerged a lot of villages, and a lot of people were displaced. So they started a campaign for compensation for these villagers and resettled for their resettlement. But no ears were lent to them. and only a handful of people were compensated, and the rest of the villagers were not compensated. So the protests were going on, and then there was a protest in which the chief minister was coming from one side and the protesters were coming from the other side, and the police wanted to disperse the protesters, and they opened fire, killing a father and a son on the spot. Babajan was not there. Babajan was in another district at the time. He was not even leading the protest. But they arrested Babajan. They tried him for double murder, and of that father and son, and awarded him 60 years rigorous imprisonment. Similarly, Iftikhar Karbelai was awarded 90 years rigorous imprisonment. Now, as it has already been mentioned by the gentleman before me, that Hunza is very educated. They are 99% literacy rate over there. And so people are very much sensitive to international politics and regional politics. Now, for 3 days now, there is a sit-in, and I have just been on the phone in Hunza, and I was told by Babajan's first cousin, who is leading the campaign. His name is Nasir, and he told me that 300 people were attending it this morning. But as afternoon came, there were thousands of people who came and joined that sit-in. This can be, Anand, this is going to be a game changer in regional politics, I can assure you. You know that in Gilgit-Baltistan, if someone protests or says something against the government or makes a demand, they vanish, they are kidnapped, they are killed, they are put in prison. Now, the sit-in have got two demands. The first demand is that they immediate release of all political prisoners in Gilgit-Baltistan. The second one is related to the inquiry report that was initiated by the government itself, but was never made public. Now, our colleagues who are lawyers in Gilgit-Baltistan are of the opinion that that inquiry report actually is in favor of the accused, because So this sit-in, they are saying that they are not going to leave. This sit-in is going to continue.
No, that's
winter.
That's a big protest that we are seeing, because in Gilgit-Baltistan, the army, the Pak army whip cracked is so strong that even one person standing there is taken away, and that person vanishes, like you said. But now you're saying thousands of people have joined in this Hunza region, and this is going to make a lot of the Chinese,
at least
3,000 people there present there. And this is not far away from those regions which China is actually coveting because of their CPEC corridor, their BRI initiative, and the troops are also wanting to move in, and the Chinese are going to get very, very nervous because of what is going to happen. But the fact of the matter is there is a latent anger within the people of Gilgit-Baltistan who've seen this happen for far too long, and now they're raising their voice. There's another big development that's coming. Let's also share that. The fact of the matter is that there is also strong protest against Pakistan's plans of trying to convert Gilgit-Baltistan into a fifth province. They may pass whatever resolutions in their National General Assembly, but Gilgit-Baltistan and its residents are outrightly rejecting it. They don't want to be a province of Pak administration at all. They are actually blocking bridges and roads, and protesters are coming out and speaking. And even at the UNHRC, it was very, very clear that it was made, and the person who made that statement is with us at this point, where they said that Pakistan is conspiring with China to make Gilgit its first province. It's purely under Chinese provocation and Chinese pressure. Mr. Amjad Ayub Mirza, you're with us. You've shared, we are putting out these visuals where the local people are blocking roads access and telling the Pakistani army they are not desirable here, and they reject this entire move to try and make Gilgit-Baltistan a fifth province.
Exactly. You see, today, the Jammu Kashmir National Awami Party leader Liaquat Hayat had announced that they are going to do a sit-in on Kohala Bridge. Kohala Bridge is the bridge from where on 22nd of October 1947, Pakistani troops marched secretly with the tribal Lashkars into the state of Jammu Kashmir and attacked Jammu Kashmir and obviously India. So this is a symbolic sit-in that is going on in the Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir side. and the government has made roadblocks, and also the Kashmiri people, the Jammu Kashmiri people have also made roadblocks to stop the military from entering into Kashmir.
Yeah.
So they are opposing the the Pakistan's decision to turn Gilgit-Baltistan into a fifth province. I'm telling you, now the crisis is getting deeper and sharper and very, very dangerous, not by the month or the year, but by the day. And soon we will see that this crisis is going to, increase manifold by the hour. Because if there is a clash in Hunza, and if there is a clash in Pojk between the democratic forces or the protesters and the Pakistan police or the military or the Punjab police, then let me remind you that on 22nd of October, the People's Alliance, which is Jammu Kashmir People's National Alliance of 26 parties, has called for, all across Pojk, they have called for protests in local areas. Last year, they converged on Muzaffarabad and had to face the brute force of the police. But due to coronavirus, they have done a very intelligent move, and they have asked people, wherever they are, you protest wherever you are. So things are going to get heated up now.
True, and I think more and more people are speaking. And Captain Alok Bansal, this is important because there are certain aspects which tend to fall on the deaf ears of those who want to always push an anti-India narrative, who always want to give Pakistan and China the benefit of doubt. But the reality is, this is sovereign Indian territory. This was invaded upon, this was encroached upon, this is occupied upon, and now the locals are saying we've had enough of this.
There is no doubt about it that this is sovereign Indian territory, and I think the UN resolution is also very clear, which had actually termed Pakistan as an aggressor. Pakistan was asked to vacate this territory, which it has not done since 47. So it is a sovereign territory. The people here are fed up with Pakistani control, Pakistan's occupation. And what is more important is that Hunza is the place where people have been actually suffering at the hands of not only Pakistan but also China.
Yeah.
Because a very, very significant chunk of their territory, not only Shaksgam Valley, which we show in our map, but areas even north of it, Raskam Valley and even Takdumbash Pamir, belong to Hunza, which have been handed over to China. By 1963 agreement that was signed during Ayub Khan's rule in Pakistan. And people have a very, very distinctive identity, especially in Hunza, because they adhere a very different sect of Islam, which is Ismaili. They speak a language, Brushushki, which is not spoken anywhere else in the world. It has no, it is a language isolate. There is no related language. And they are extremely unhappy with the Pakistan's domination. Baba Jan.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. I've got more updates coming through, and this time this is from Pak-occupied Kashmir. Now, we're given to understand that